and that'll be a critical thing for us as we fill those shoes. But when you have a guy like Caleb, from who he is a person, from a leadership standpoint, from a safety skill standpoint, it's easy as a coach and you say, hey, just watch Caleb Downs, follow what Caleb Downs does, right? So that's made it much easier from that standpoint.
And how do you kind of assess where you are in replacing Lake?
Mm-hmm.
You got Jalen, you got what do you think?
Yeah, that starts even before that process happens. You're going back and you're saying, okay, you're projecting who's leaving your room, that type of stuff, and you're developing those guys. So that's been an ongoing process. And then this winter, the workouts have been incredibly intense and competitive from everybody in the room. Anytime that you have a job open like that, but no, it's been great from those guys, and spring ball's gonna be really big.
What are your impressions right now of how complete look like developmental year?
Yeah. Leroy, he got his black stripe off early as a freshman, and that was earned. He's had an awesome offseason. I think when you guys see him at spring practice, he's going to look like a different guy physically. He's a different guy mentally. He's been incredibly competitive. He's definitely one of our most improved guys, when you say what they've done in the offseason workouts.
And then I'll try to ask this as best I can. You can't use Caleb as a reference because Caleb is like almost like a one-of-one type of player. Starts as true freshman, All-American, the whole night. But you also know that like the standard is the standard. Like, how do you evaluate the guys that might play beside him without evaluating them from like a Caleb perspective? Knowing what he does is so.
Yeah, I think each guy you look at individually. You have you can compare and you say, hey, this guy does this really well or that type of stuff. Excellence is a standard for us, which means you're doing your absolute best. You're doing what we ask you to do. So I would say you do it more on an individual basis of, okay, what does that guy do well? What doesn't he do well? How do we train him to improve those things? Is he taking the coaching? Is he applying it on the field? Like at the end of the day, as a coach, we're evaluating on the production on the field. That's all that matters, right? So we're very critical of those things, and we're hard on ourselves as coaches and hard on players to be able to get those things done. Caleb is obviously unique, right? His development level is unique. His readiness for college is unique. His football intelligence, his mental make, all those things are unique. So that enhances the entire room. So I think, not so much from a comparison standpoint, but that helps bring other guys along to get to that level.
You saw Jalen play a lot as a freshman. What does Fahim need to do in the next 2.5 months or so to prove that maybe he can be on like a chance to type of path where he plays a lot as a freshman or he does just for the role beside Caleb?
Yeah, we're excited about Fahim. Obviously excited about him from when we recruited him. But what does he need to do? He needs to do his job at max capacity. Just like any of the guys, right? Why did Jalen McClain do what he did? We probably weren't talking about Jalen McClain this time of year, from that standpoint. And what did he do? He showed up early. He stayed late. He did his job as hard as he could possibly do it. Discipline, routine, consistency, all those things. So nothing extraordinary, just doing, great at the things that we ask you to do every single day.
How do you feel like you can balance what Jalen does well and what Malik does well and create goals for those guys?
Yeah, it's a great question. Guys have strengths. Guys have weaknesses or things that they need to get better at. So we have meetings leading up to spring ball where we say, hey, here's your individual plan to get better. And something that I think that, Matt brings to the table, Matt Patricia brings to the table is, throughout his career, he has highlighted what guys do really, really well, schematically, right? So we're able to put guys into different packages and get them on the field to be able to do what they do. But, we're excited about those guys. And that's our job to, if those guys earn the right to be on the field, which I expect them to do, then that's our job to make ways for them to be out there.
With Jordan playing a lot of safety last year, did that kind of create a blueprint for you guys on how you can do more free safety stuff going forward?
Yeah, Jordan was great from a flexibility standpoint, right? So we were able to go from kind of traditional nickel-type looks to 3 high safety looks and allowed to put Caleb in different spots. So that was critical for us, especially down the stretch. You saw it in the playoff run for a number of weeks of they didn't really know exactly how it was going to be deployed. So that flexibility is critically important to us. Flexibility going forward is going to be great. And kudos to Jordan for taking that step. He started against Nebraska at high safety. The different things that he was able to do last year was huge. Is going to help him in the NFL. And then, again, we look at, okay, who are the pieces that we have? How do we highlight those and how do we deploy them? But, flexibility will always be important to us.
You ideally want a guy who can be that Jordan, who can play both that nickel and the safety?
I think it always helps anytime that whoever you are, whatever position, they can do multiple things. If you're a linebacker and you can rush off the edge, if you're a corner and you can bump to the inside and play slot corner or play high safety. So I think those flexibility things are critical, more than just like pinpointing just that position has to be able to function that way, but the flexibility across positions at defensive backs as part of Coach Walton, Tim and my philosophy is they're defensive backs. They're not just a corner or just a nickel or just a safety, right? Let's meet together. Let's train together to be able to groom these guys to be flexible in and out of packages. And that helps your depth too, right? So it may not be like, who's the next best defensive back in the game? Well, it may not just be the guy replacing a guy that got injured in that position, right? You may have to move pieces around, and that flexibility, helps us for sure.
Matt, Ryan said these guys are probably going to get some rest this spring. I imagine Caleb Johnson's one of those guys. What do you want to see from the rest of the room as they step in and kind of get more
competition? I want to see incredible competitiveness every single day, right? So I want to see consistency from the guys. I want to see, we want our guys to be consistently on the rise, right? It's not okay to like 2 days better, then you're taking a step back. No, like every day you need to be consistently on the rise. So like those habits, your consistency, and then your competitive mentality, that's what I want to see. Right? We'll coach them, we'll get them in the right spot. I don't worry about that, but I want to see that competitive mentality, that hunger, and that's what I've seen from the winter workout so far. I mean, this morning it was a real one in here, and that's what Coach Mick has developed, what Coach Day preaches, what we preach on defense too. I mean, that competitive mentality I want to see from those guys.
We've seen, Jim got a start last year. He played a little bit deeper. What about those two? What do you want to see from those two to continue to take that step up? Where do you feel like they need to go?
Yeah, I think consistency for any young player is the biggest thing, right? So you see flashes of talent, right? But you want to be able to do that over and over and over and over again. I'm not saying that they have not been that way. I'm actually really pleased with where those guys are right now. But that's going to be the biggest thing is, like when you're playing in situational type things or packaging, things like that. That's different than maybe you're out there for 60 snaps in a game, right? That's a different type of feeling, right? So the consistency of performance is important in those because you're put in a lot of different adverse situations, right? So that'll be the biggest thing is responding to those pressure situations and being consistent in performance.
Is any of them, either those two, better suited for that Lathan role, or are they both, like you talk about versatility, flexibility, or are they just kind of flexible?
Yeah, our job is to put the best football players on the field. So Lathan's role was Lathan's role because that's what Lathan did well. Caleb's role was Caleb's role because that's what Caleb did well, right? So then you say, okay, we have some starters coming back. We have a lot of new pieces, right? So we say, okay, what do these guys do holistically well? And then let's highlight those things and put them in position to be successful. That's all our job as coaches, right, is to put the guys in position to be successful. And, we spent a lot of time as the defensive staff talking about that, personnel conversations, and then that's our job this spring is to make sure that we're getting those pieces right.
At the slot, Jordan had such a great year for you guys last year. Who are some candidates to kind of replace him there? Do you call it the nickel? Do you call it the slot?
Nickel's what we've called it.
Okay,
Lorenzo Styles has done a bunch of awesome things at that position. When you look at Jermaine Matthews and what he's been able to do playing on the outside, but also the toughness he brings in the slot from that position. So there's a number of guys that have those traits, and it's a unique guy to be able to do that, because you're not just a corner, you're not just a safety, you play like a linebacker sometimes too, so that interchangeable piece has been really important. Jordan did an awesome job of that, and then, we were able to even grow the packaging last year because of the things that he was able to do.
Coach Day said about you at the national championship celebration, I'm sure it's things he's told you privately, but for him to say that at the championships, saying you're one of the rising stars in the industry, one of the brightest young minds, that had to make you feel really good. Just your takeaway from that. I know you're a humble guy. Yeah. You probably don't even want me to ask you about that.
No, you can ask anything. Yeah. No, I think anytime that you get recognized for your hard work and your contribution's awesome. I appreciate Coach Day saying it. I've got an awesome relationship with Coach Day and think the world of him. I try to just be a behind-the-scenes operator. I don't mind the spotlight, but I try to just be a behind-the-scenes operator and put the guys in position to be able to shine. But no, I'm appreciative of him and look forward to keep contributing.
And what are your thoughts so far on Coach Patricia? We got a chance to meet him for the first time. Very engaging personality. Just when you're obviously very decorated. Just what are your thoughts on Coach Patricia?
First off, when Matt Patricia walks in the room, it speaks for itself, right? So, but first off, like a great guy, like just humble, gracious. I've been very impressed with the person, and I had no previous relationship with Matt at all, so it was awesome to be able to build that relationship over the last couple of weeks. The football intelligence is incredible. The IQ period is incredible. This is a very, very, very smart guy. What he's been able to do with defenses and the wealth of knowledge and experience that he brings is he's operated as a GM, an offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, head coach. It's pretty amazing when you start talking about the things that he's been able to do throughout his career. So I have a ton of respect, anyways, surface level. But then to be able to know the man, I can't say enough positive things. But he's gonna be an awesome part of what we're doing.
Last thing for me, what do you think of the Bible?
Yeah.
Has he shown you the Bible? He said he has it here.
Oh, it's huge. It's stacked up. It's stacked up. You know, I've studied those New England teams from afar for many years. Actually, I've used some of the things that they've done with their safeties as teach tapes throughout the years. So I especially when I was a younger coach in the profession, I used NFL examples to teach guys earlier on my time at Duke, and I still carry those through with teach tapes and things. So I've studied that defense, from afar, obviously without even knowing Matt. And then, for him to be able to be here and then take you through, the history of why it got to that, his background with, Bill Belichick and all those things is pretty awesome. But the amount of detail is amazing. Like it's not a fluke why they've had the success. When you say, let's talk about a coverage, the amount of detail in the coverage where you take all this high-level information and you boil it down to very simple, so the player can go play functionally. Like it's a true talent that he has.
The freshmen that you have here, what have your thoughts been on them so far? And then before you hit the field, what kind of things do you look for before spring practice starts to kind of let you know that okay, this kid might be ready?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have Fahim, Cody, and Deshaun here right now. They've all been awesome. Like first off, who they are as people. Has been fantastic. Like those guys show up early for everything. They're on point, body weight, every little marker that we look for. Academically, how they're performing, all that has been great. Fahim came in with a ready-made college body. That's, documented through recruiting. We're excited about him. He's learning the ways to be a Buckeye, what it means to be a Buckeye, following the older guys, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome. Cody's been great. Cody's a worker. He's been fantastic to have every single day. He's made big time improvements. Really excited about him as well. And then Deshaun's coming off that injury that he had, in his high school season, and he's been great as well. I mean, he's been really diligent. Like all of them have been diligent workers, bought in. They're hungry and they want to get better. So we're excited about all those guys.
Is Deshaun going to be able to practice in spring practice?
He'll be limited some in spring ball, so we'll be smart with him. But he's progressing very well,
With Fahim, obviously, he comes from a college-ready body. Comes from a really good conference out in the DMV.
Oh yeah.
What stood out about him as a recruit? What are you guys most excited about?
Yeah, he brings a physicality to his game. You've been able to see him roll down in the box, blitz, do some of the things that we've been able to do with safeties, but bring a physicality and mentality with him, And then obviously when you get here, then it's a totally different level, right? So everybody's as good as you, And but no, I think very highly of him and have high expectations for him.
When it comes to Caleb now, I'm curious. He's obviously at the top of the sport, right, in terms of his ability. How much does that allow you, I guess, for lack of a better word, to experiment with some of the things you can do? Because it feels like he could succeed at a lot of different positions in the field. How much does that allow you to say, okay, we could do this, we could do that, and move some things around you might not otherwise be able to do?
Yeah, it definitely allows you to, and as a coach, you would say you have to be able to do that, right? So you've got essentially a very, very unique chess piece that can, like how many guys can really play the deep part of the field, the shallow part of the field, blitz, do the different things that we ask him to do at that level, right? Guys can move around and do it, but very few can do it to that level where he's elite at all of it. So it's keeping it simple enough to be able to go be functional with him and the pieces that are around him. But that's a huge part of, you see our success this past year. A lot of that was putting Caleb in position to be successful. And that's especially like as we, say from the half point of the season towards the end, that was critical for us. So yeah, I think it's a responsibility as a coach when you have a guy like this to make sure you're putting him in position.
Malik played a good bit as a freshman last year, and obviously room stayed healthier a little bit too, but didn't get as much action, but still, was first guy off the bench. What have you seen from him? Where is he at in his development?
I've seen a big jump from Malik. You're going to see a different kind of guy when he takes the field this spring. So it's all mentality. It's all mentality. So physically, that's why you saw the flashes of him as a true freshman, and he's always had that piece right there. But the mentality, the toughness, the grit that he has, I mean, that's showing up big time right now. So I got big expectations for him.
what does this spring look like for Caleb? Brian's talked about some of the guys who played a lot last year, maybe a little scaled back, but new defense in, and obviously second year in the system. What does things look like for him?
Yeah, I think leadership is the biggest thing right now. You know what I mean? So when he's always been a leader, but he's got even a bigger leadership role because you had a bunch of guys that had played a lot of snaps here at Ohio State, right, where you don't have as many guys playing snaps. So I think, this offseason he's been fantastic, but then transitioning that weight room work to the field now from a leadership standpoint is going to be critical for him. So, we'll be smart with, like Coach Day said, we'll be smart with how we manage reps and, springs of time to build fundamentals, to build schematics, but really to also find out what guys can do, and we know some of what he can do at a high level. I think we all do, right? So, again, continue to get him better, but allow him to be able to influence the other guys to be able to grow.
If I can sneak one more,
Yep,
the nickel spot.
Yep.
Who are some of the guys who are sort of like who would rep at that spot?
Yeah, Lorenzo Styles, Jermaine Matthews, and we've got some guys that have experience in there, and we've got some good candidates to be able to go into that spot. But those will be guys that you'll be able to see operating in there. Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.